I sat across from my soon-to-be ex-husband in our lawyer's office, watching him fidget with his Rolex, the same Rolex I'd saved up for 3 years to buy him for our 5th anniversary. He wouldn't even look at me. "So, Natalie," his lawyer began, sliding a thick folder across the mahogany table. "My client is prepared to be very generous in this settlement. The downtown condo, the BMW, and a lump sum of $50,000. Marcus finally looked up, that familiar, smug smile playing at his lips. He thought he was being so magnanimous. So above it all, I didn't touch the folder. "I don't want any of it," I said quietly. The room went silent. Even my own lawyer turned to stare at me. Marcus's smile widened. "Well, that makes things easier, doesn't it? I have one condition," I continued. "I want Grandma Constance's old recipe box, the wooden one she kept in the pantry. That's all." You should have seen his face. Pure relief flooded his features, followed by barely concealed amusement. His lawyer actually laughed. "The recipe box?" Marcus repeated. "That old thing Mom's been keeping for decades?" "Natalie, are you serious?" "Dead serious." He exchanged glances with his lawyer, probably thinking I'd lost my mind in my grief over the divorce. Truth was, I probably had. 7 years of marriage, and I'd just found out the last 3 had been a lie. 3 years of late nights at the office that were actually late nights with Sienna, his 24-year-old marketing associate. "Fine," Marcus said, leaning back in his chair. "Take the recipe box. Hell, take all of Mom's old junk if you want. God knows Sienna won't want any of it when we move into the penthouse." That last part was meant to hurt. It did. But I kept my face neutral. "Just the recipe box," I repeated. "Deal." He was already standing, ready to leave. Ready to get back to his new life, his new girlfriend, his freedom from the wife who'd supposedly let herself go after supporting him through business school. 2 weeks later, I stood in the kitchen of the home we'd shared, packing the last of my things. Marcus had moved out immediately, practically sprinting toward his new life. The house was already on the market. Constance, Marcus's grandmother, was the only one who'd come to help me pack. She was 83, sharp as a tack, and the only person in Marcus's family who'd looked me in the eye since the divorce papers were filed. "He's a fool," she said, carefully wrapping my coffee mugs in newspaper. "Just like his father was, just like his grandfather was. The Reynolds men have a talent for not appreciating what they have until it's gone." "I'm sorry I couldn't be the daughter-in-law you deserved," I said, my voice cracking. She stopped packing and turned to me. "Natalie, sweetheart, you were exactly the daughter-in-law I hoped for. That's why I'm here." She walked to the pantry and pulled out the wooden recipe box. It was beautiful in its simplicity, mahogany, hand-carved, probably 70 years old. I'd always loved it. The way it smelled like cinnamon and old paper when you opened it. "Take it," she said, pressing it into my hands. "But don't open it until you're settled in your new place. Promise me." There was something in her eyes, something I couldn't quite read. "I promise," I said. She hugged me then. Hard. "He'll regret this. My dear. They always do. But by then, you'll be so far ahead, you won't even care." I moved into a small apartment across town, the kind of place I could afford on my paralegal salary. It wasn't much a one-bedroom on the 3rd floor of an old building, but it was mine. No memories of Marcus's betrayal. No ghost of Sienna's perfume in the hallway. It took me 3 days to unpack everything. I saved the recipe box for last, placing it on my tiny kitchen counter. I made myself a cup of tea, sat down, and finally opened it. The top layer was exactly what you'd expect index cards filled with Constance's neat handwriting: pot roast, apple pie, Christmas cookies. I smiled, running my fingers over the cards. I'd made half these recipes with her over the years, Sunday dinners at her place when Marcus was too busy to visit his grandmother. But underneath the recipes, there was a manila envelope. My hands shook as I pulled it out. On the front, in Constance's handwriting: "For Natalie. Open when you're ready to start over." Inside were documents. Lots of documents. The first was a handwritten letter. "My dear Natalie, if you're reading this, then my grandson has proven himself to be the fool I feared he'd become. I've watched you these past 7 years, seen how you loved my grandson with your whole heart, how you supported him, believed in him, even when he didn't deserve it. I've also watched him. Seen the late nights, the lies, the way he's become more like his father every day. A woman doesn't live to 83 without learning to recognize a cheating man. What you'll find in this envelope is everything you need to know about the Reynolds Family Trust. You see, Marcus thinks his success is all his own. That fancy company of his, the one that's about to go public? It was built on capital from the family trust, a trust his grandfather established 70 years ago with very specific conditions. I am the trustee. I decide who gets what, when they get it, and under what circumstances. Marcus has been receiving quarterly disbursements for years. Money he told you came from business profits. He's been lying to you about his success just as much as he's been lying about Sienna. The trust has a morality clause, Natalie, one that his grandfather insisted upon because he'd lived through his own son's indiscretions and knew the pattern. Any heir found to be in violation of their marriage vows through infidelity forfeits their claim to the trust. All of it. I have documentation of Marcus's affair. I have bank statements showing he used trust funds to buy Sienna gifts. That diamond bracelet he told you was a business expense? Trust money. The weekend trips to Napa he said were conferences? Trust money. I'm 83 years old, sweetheart. I won't be here forever. But I wanted to make sure you were taken care of before I go. There's a reason I didn't fight when Marcus demanded you get nothing in the divorce. I knew you'd get something far more valuable. As of the moment you opened this box, I've initiated the process to transfer my position as trustee to you. Yes, to you. The trust documents allow me to choose my successor, and I choose the woman who spent her Sundays keeping a lonely old woman company, who learned my mother's recipes, who actually cared about preserving family history. Marcus doesn't know any of this yet. He won't, until the lawyers contact him next month. By then, you'll have full control of the Reynolds Family Trust estimated value of $800 million. Use it wisely. Use it well. And know that you were the granddaughter I never had. With all my love, Constance. I read the letter 3 times, my tea growing cold beside me. $800 million. The number didn't even seem real. The rest of the documents confirmed everything Constance had written. Bank statements. Photographs Marcus and Sienna in Napa, in Cabo, in New York. Affidavits from private investigators. The trust documents themselves, dense with legalese, but clear enough in their conditions. There was one more note. Paper clipped to the trust documents. P.S. The recipes are real too. The apple pie is particularly good. Make it when you need to remember that sweet things take time, but they're worth the wait. I called my lawyer the next morning. She was skeptical at first. The story sounded too much like a movie plot, but when she reviewed the documents, her skepticism turned to shocked silence. Natalie, she said finally, this is airtight. The trust is real, the morality clause is enforceable, and the documentation of his infidelity is thorough. Mrs. Reynolds was very, very thorough. What happens now? Now we wait for the trust lawyers to contact Marcus. Given the timeline in these documents, that should happen in about 3 weeks. In the meantime, you keep this quiet. Don't tell anyone. Don't post anything on social media. Just live your life. Those 3 weeks were the longest of my life. I went to work, came home to my small apartment, and tried to process what was happening. I made Constance's apple pie, following her instructions exactly. She was right, it was particularly good. I also grieved. Not for Marcus, I'd started grieving that marriage the moment I found Sienna's earring in our bedroom, but for the life I'd thought I was building. For the person I'd been, who believed in happy endings and faithful husbands. Constance called me every few days, just to chat. We never talked about the trust, but I could hear the satisfaction in her voice. She was getting her affairs in order, she said, making sure everything was exactly as it should be. Are you eating well? She'd ask. Have you tried the pot roast recipe yet? Not yet, Grandma. Well, when you do, make extra. It freezes beautifully. You'll want it on hand for when you're too busy to cook. Too busy doing what? Living, my dear. Really living. The call came on a Tuesday. Marcus, screaming so loud I had to hold the phone away from my ear. What did you do? Hello to you too, Marcus. The trust, Natalie. What the hell did you do to the trust? I didn't do anything. I just opened a recipe box. I could hear him breathing hard, trying to control his rage. The lawyers say you're the trustee now, that I'm cut off, that everything I've built, Everything you built with trust money that you were never entitled to use the way you did, I interrupted. Everything you built on lies. You can't do this. I'll sue. You'll what, Marcus? The trust documents are clear. The morality clause is enforceable. You violated your marriage vows, and you used trust funds inappropriately. That's not my doing, that's yours. Silence. Then, this is because I left you for Sienna, isn't it? This is revenge. No, I said softly. This is consequences. There's a difference. He hung up. I sat in my apartment, hands shaking, and called Constance. He knows, I said. Good, she replied. How do you feel? Scared, overwhelmed, like this isn't really happening. It's happening, sweetheart, and you're going to be wonderful. The trust lawyers will be in touch tomorrow. They'll walk you through everything. You're not alone in this. She was right. The next day, I met with Harrison and Associates, the law firm that had managed the Reynolds family trust for 3 generations. They were professional, thorough, and clearly approved of Constance's choice. Mrs. Reynolds was very specific about her wishes, the senior partner told me. She's been planning this transition for 2 years, ever since she first suspected her grandson's infidelity. Every step has been documented, every legal requirement met. You are the legitimate trustee, Miss Natalie. What does that mean, exactly? It means you have complete discretion over all trust disbursements. You decide who receives funds, how much, and when. The trust's primary beneficiaries are Mrs. Reynolds' descendants, but the terms allow for the trustee to deny disbursements based on conduct violations. So, Marcus Reynolds is currently in violation of the trust's morality clause. As long as that violation stands, he is ineligible for disbursements. However, the trust also funds several family members and charitable organizations. Those will continue under your oversight. Over the next month, I learned more about finance, estate law, and family dynamics than I'd learned in my entire life. The trust wasn't just about Marcus, it supported Constance's sister's medical care, funded scholarships at the local college, and maintained several properties. I also learned about Marcus's company, the one that was about to go public. The one built almost entirely on trust disbursements that he'd misrepresented as business profits. His investors were getting nervous, calling for audits, asking questions about funding sources. Without the trust's quarterly disbursements, Marcus's house of cards was collapsing. Sienna left him 6 weeks after the trust was transferred. I didn't take any pleasure in that. Watching someone's world crumble isn't as satisfying as you'd think. But I'd be lying if I said there wasn't a small part of me that felt vindicated when I saw her Instagram photos from Cabo, this time with a different man, someone whose money wasn't about to dry up. Marcus tried everything. Lawyers, threats, pleading phone calls at 2 a.m. His mother even showed up at my apartment, demanding I stop this nonsense and give her son what's rightfully his. What's rightfully his is what the trust documents say is his, I told her calmly. And right now, that's nothing. You're destroying his life. No, he did that himself. I'm just holding him accountable. She left, slamming the door hard enough to rattle the frame. Constance called that evening. I heard my daughter-in-law paid you a visit. News travels fast. She's always been good at drama, less good at self-reflection. I'm sorry she bothered you. It's okay, I handled it. I know you did. You always handle things, Natalie. That's why I chose you. There was something in her voice, a tiredness I hadn't heard before. Are you okay, Grandma? I'm 83, sweetheart. Okay is relative. But I'm satisfied. That's more important. 3 months after I became trustee, Constance passed away in her sleep. Peaceful, the doctors said. No pain, just slipped away in the night. I gave the eulogy at her funeral. Marcus was there, standing at the back with his mother, both of them looking at me with barely concealed fury. But there were others too, scholarship recipients she'd funded, nurses from the care facility where her sister lived, people whose lives she'd touched with quiet generosity. I talked about Sunday dinners and recipe cards. About a woman who valued integrity over image, kindness over status, who understood that real wealth wasn't in bank accounts but in relationships built on honesty and care. After the service, one of the scholarship recipients approached me, a young woman studying engineering at State. Mrs. Reynolds told me about you, she said. Last time I visited, she said the trust was going to someone who understood what it was really for, someone who'd use it the way it was meant to be used. What did she think it was meant for? The young woman smiled. She said it was meant to help people build real things, real businesses, real skills, real lives. Not just fund expensive lifestyles and bad decisions. That became my mission. I restructured the trust disbursements, funding more scholarships, supporting small businesses started by women, investing in community programs. I hired financial advisors who aligned with Constance's values, who understood that money could be a tool for good. I also took business classes. If I was going to manage $800 million, I was going to do it right. I enrolled in an MBA program, part-time, learning about finance and management and all the things Marcus had claimed to be so good at. Marcus's company went under 8 months after I became trustee. Turns out, without the trust's money, he'd been running it into the ground. The investors sued. His penthouse was seized. Last I heard, he was working as a consultant for a firm in Phoenix, making a fraction of what he used to make. Sienna's engaged now to some tech entrepreneur in Seattle. I saw the announcement on Instagram, a picture of her hand with a massive diamond ring, caption reading, "Found my forever." Same caption she'd used when Marcus gave her that bracelet. The one bought with trust money. I don't check their social media anymore. There's no point. That part of my life is over. It's been 2 years since I opened that recipe box. I'm 33 now, finishing my MBA, running a trust that's grown to over $1 billion through careful investments. I bought a house, nothing ostentatious, just a nice colonial in a good neighborhood with a kitchen big enough to cook Constance's recipes. I made the pot roast last Sunday. She was right about it, freezing well. I have 3 containers in the freezer now, ready for busy weeks. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I'd fought for the condo, the BMW, the $50,000. If I'd tried to get my share of a life that had been built on lies anyway. I'd have some money, sure. Maybe enough to start over comfortably. But I wouldn't have this. The trust, yes. But more than that, the knowledge that Constance believed in me. That she saw something in me worth investing in, worth trusting with her family's legacy. That she valued the Sunday dinners and recipe exchanges more than her own grandson valued his marriage vows. I keep the recipe box on my kitchen counter, refilled now with cards I've written myself. New recipes I've discovered, old ones I've adapted. But Constance's original cards are still there, tucked in the back, her handwriting a reminder of where all this started. Last week, I got a letter from Marcus. Handwritten, postmarked from Phoenix. "I know you won't believe this," it read. "But I'm sorry. Not because of the money, though God knows I miss it. I'm sorry because you deserved better than what I gave you. You deserved honesty, faithfulness, respect. All the things I was too selfish and stupid to provide. Losing the trust made me look at my life, really look at it, and I realized Grandma was right about everything. I was building a house of cards, living a lie, becoming exactly the kind of man I swore I'd never be. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't even deserve acknowledgement. But I wanted you to know that you won in every way that matters. You're a better person than I could ever be. You always were. I hope you're happy, Natalie. I really do. Marcus." I read it twice, then filed it away in a drawer. Maybe someday I'll feel something about it, forgiveness, closure, satisfaction. Right now, I just feel neutral. Like he's someone I used to know, someone from a different life. My life now is full in ways I never expected. The trust work is challenging and rewarding. I'm on the board of 3 nonprofits. I'm dating nothing serious yet, but I'm learning to trust again, slowly. I have friends who know the real me, not the version I created to be Marcus's perfect wife. Yesterday, I was going through Constance's original recipe cards and found one I hadn't seen before, tucked in the very back. It wasn't a recipe at all, just a note, "Dearest Natalie. By the time you find this, you'll have discovered what you're truly capable of. You'll have built something real, something good, something that matters. That's all I ever wanted for you. That's all I ever wanted for any of us. The secret ingredient to every recipe is love. Not the romantic kind, though, that's nice too, but the kind that says, I care enough to do this right. I care enough to use the good ingredients. I care enough to take my time. That's what you brought to our family, even when we didn't deserve it. That's what you'll bring to everything you do. Make good things, sweetheart. Live a good life. That's the best recipe of all. Always, Constance. I'm crying as I read it, standing in my kitchen on a random Tuesday evening. Happy tears, sad tears, grateful tears all mixed together. Tomorrow, I have a meeting with potential scholarship recipients. Next week, I'm reviewing proposals from women-owned businesses seeking startup capital. Next month, I'm giving a talk at the business school about ethical wealth management. But tonight, I'm making Constance's apple pie. The good one. The one that takes time but is worth the wait. I pull out the ingredients: fresh apples, real butter, cinnamon. As I work, I think about recipe boxes and trust funds and Sunday dinners with lonely old women. About how the smallest things, a kind word, a shared recipe, consistent presence can change everything. Marcus thought he was giving me nothing when he agreed to let me take that recipe box. And in his world, in his way of measuring worth, he was right. It was just an old wooden box full of index cards and memories. But that's the thing about value. It's not always where you expect it to be. Sometimes it's not in the penthouse or the BMW or the $50,000. Sometimes it's in knowing someone saw you, really saw you, and decided you were worth everything. The pie goes into the oven, and my kitchen fills with the smell of cinnamon and apples. I make myself a cup of tea and sit down with my laptop to review tomorrow's meeting notes. Outside my window, the sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. It's beautiful in a quiet, understated way. The kind of beauty you might miss if you're too focused on flash and show. I'm not missing it anymore. I'm not missing anything. Because I learned the most important lesson of all, the one Constance spent her whole life trying to teach her family. Real wealth isn't in what you take. It's in what you give, what you build, what you preserve for others. It's in the recipe cards passed down, the Sunday dinners shared, the trust placed in someone worthy of keeping it. I took the recipe box and got everything. Marcus kept everything else and ended up with nothing. And somewhere, I think Constance is smiling about that. Probably while making her pot roast, the one that freezes so well. The one that's ready when you need it. Exactly when you need it. Just like she was.